If you're putting content out there, whether you're writing that yourself or using the automated content library or using one of Carrot's new AI rewrite tools, you have to make sure the content is helpful. What does that mean from Google's terms? But another thing that changed was that Google started to really double down on backlinks. Google has built their backbone of search based off of backlinks being the strongest ranking factor. And so previously, they announced that backlinks are being devalued. And if you were watching this similar podcast episode back in 2022, we were making 2023 predictions, we even said, I think backlinks are going to be devalued. We finally know that that's not the case. You should still be building backlinks, but the quality of the backlinks now is more important than ever.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Carrot Cast. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, amazing, because you're going to be in for a treat with some amazing visuals. We're going to be showing some things, demoing some things. If you're listening on the audio portion of it, it's going to be amazing for you as well. But head over to our YouTube channel because we're going to be talking about SEO, search engine optimization, in 2024. What do we need to do to make adjustments? What do we need to do to make shifts? There are a lot of things that changed this year. And actually, we were looking at some data the other day where our Carrot customers actually saw net benefit from most of those changes. And so we're going to talk about what are the people doing who are getting rewarded? What are the people doing who are not? And I've got Brian, our amazing SEO expert here from Carrot, on the call with me. And we're just going to have a conversation, guys. So if you've been curious about how do you get better rankings in Google with all that's changing, this call could potentially make you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 12 to 24 months, y'all. So Brian, welcome back on the Carrot Cast, man. Fun to see you here.
Thank you for having me. It's always glad to be here.
Dude, so it's kind of funny. We were talking right before I hit record on this. Carrot Cast, I've probably done hundreds of episodes, but I haven't done one of these ones for a while because Brady leads it. And so this is a treat for me, dude, being able to sit down with you and just kind of pick your brain and go where this is going to go on the SEO side. So pumped to have you here, man.
Big time. Likewise.
So guys, a couple of things that we're gonna dig into. I mean, number one, we've got some amazing resources we're gonna get your way because we can only get through so much in this training, in this video. But we're gonna do a recap of what are some of the things that changed search engine optimization related, specifically as a real estate investor or agent in our industry in 2023. You know, there's the Google Search Labs, AI experiments that came up, helpful content updates that came up. We're gonna talk about some of those. We're going to talk about some of the big questions that are happening in the market of, you know, is Google going to get taken over? Is ChatGPT or tools like that going to replace it? And we're going to give our opinion on that. I think it's really important that you hear where we think things are going. We're going to talk about AI even more in this call and really what to expect in that year ahead. And if you've seen some ranking drops recently, Brian's going to kind of show us and walk us through what people are doing to get those rankings back in this environment. So, dude, at the start, let's kind of review. So you've got your hand on the pulse of SEO. You send through internally these updates. Anytime there's a algorithm update or big change, I see this update from Brian, and we take that and figure out how do we now act on this for our customers. But dude, what are some of the big changes that you saw this past year with SEO?
Well, the biggest one that I think everyone is aware of, but maybe doesn't fully understand, is AI. So a lot of people, when it first came out, everyone thought AI is going to completely replace Google and completely replace search. And that's just not the case, at least not yet, and probably not for a long time still. The fact of the matter is AI still has a lot of faults. It still takes time to generate those responses, even with Google's search generative experience or the search labs. And it's just not as accurate. And, you know, AI still needs high quality websites to pull that information from. But what we did see is Google really taking kind of a soft-hearted stance on AI, because at first Google said, no, we won't rank anything AI. It's got to be written by humans for humans. Then they sort of backpedaled on that about halfway through 2023 and said, okay, the most important thing is that the content is helpful for people. It's written for people. We don't really care if it's written by AI anymore, which was a big deal. It's big news, and sort of gave a lot of people who were diving feet first into AI permission to just go full throttle and produce tons and tons of content. But then I think a lot of the bigger questions are how can we use AI to help us with SEO? And what can we implement in terms of AI for our business to reach the next goal, reach the next milestone. And so I think that's the big one, the big takeaway.
100%, dude. I'm gonna bring up this this tab really quick. And so for those of you that are watching on YouTube, I want to kind of walk you through what Google is actually saying about AI. And so let's add this puppy in here. So guys, I'm going to read directly from Google's mouth here on what they're saying about it. And this is from Google's page. It says Google searches guidance about AI generated content. It's updated from 2023. And the very top headline says rewarding high quality content however it's produced. Okay, however it's produced. And then it talks about EAT, which I'm sure will come up in our conversation today. Definitely. But it says Google's ranking system aims to reward original content, high quality content that demonstrates qualities of what we call EAT: expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And then it talks about it below. It says our focus is on the quality of the content rather than how it's produced. And it's saying down below, you can use AI for this. It just wants unique, valuable content, and they want to reward quality content. And they say that's the core of Google search since it began. And so, dude, I think that's a really important thing, because there have been a lot of conversations where I think people have been saying exactly what you've been mentioning, Ryan. Oh my gosh, we shouldn't use AI for content, but it's probably more around the quality side of it. It's not that Google sees AI as bad. It's saying the way that they're using AI is producing bad content, and it's not quality content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, so what are some of the other changes that popped up that you saw either reward people or penalize people in 2013?
Yeah, so another one of the really big ones that you mentioned earlier is the helpful content update. So this one, I think, was the predecessor for the AI announcement. And Google really just had to decide, like, if we're going to allow AI content to rank and perform well, what are our guidelines around that? Like, how can we more clearly define what is helpful so that people can use AI to produce high quality content? So that's a big one. And I think that one has affected a lot of websites and webmasters out there. And I think that's the one that I think is probably the most impactful for Carrot members, is just to make sure that if you're putting content out there, whether you're writing that yourself or using the automated content library, or using one of Carrot's new AI rewrite tools, you have to make sure the content is helpful. And so later on in this call, we're going to share something that we've been using internally to help sort of quantify and qualify what is helpful content. Like, what does that mean from Google's terms? So we'll get to that later. But another thing that changed was that Google started to really double down on backlinks, and not just whether or not backlinks are ranking factors, because they will be ranking factors for a long time. Google has built their backbone of search based off of backlinks being the strongest ranking factor. And so they're not likely to change that anytime soon because it's just too expensive. So previously, they announced that backlinks are being devalued. And if you were watching this similar podcast episode back in 2022, we were making 2023 predictions, we even said, I think backlinks are going to be devalued. And so we finally know that that's not the case. So they are still valuable. You should still be building backlinks, but the quality of the backlinks now is more important than ever. You can't get on Fiverr. You can't buy spammy backlinks or toxic backlinks. It's just not going to work. And so we've been doing a lot of analysis on the quality of backlinks and how to identify that and what to do if you have some spammy backlinks. So we can give you some tips later on in this call about that as well. But that's probably the third big thing that really changed this year.
So right before this call, you were bringing up a couple examples that the Carrot team shared with you. And one of the ones that's really cool about what you had just talked about. And so guys, I want you to stay on this training session, because Brian's going to show you examples of what to do. But the situation where someone is ranking higher than you, but every reason, everything that you look at that, it seems like they should be ranking higher than you. You've got more backlinks than them. The content may be good on both of them, or like all these factors. But one of the things that you did see that seemed like it was a factor was the quality of those backlinks. So I'm way excited to dive into that later, because I think there's been a major push this past year or two with a lot of people in the industry that are pushing on backlink volume, backlink building. That's a good thing, right? But once again, we always have to think of what Google wants. What is Google gonna see as natural, as quality as something they should reward a site for, not what works just for today. And if we kind of talk SEO vision, here at Carrot, we always talk about evergreen marketing. And it's a big trade-off, dude, when we talk about SEO. Yeah, because when we talk with a person, they want results now, right? It's that trade-off of, man, it's all this work.
Right.
You put in all this work, and we might not get rewarded for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14 months, depending on the market and how much work you do. So naturally, people want to accelerate that process, and they do that usually with some level of backlink. But the question is, if you're truly looking for evergreen, which for us is it works well for years to come, is an aggressive backlink strategy going to truly help you with that? Or should you go a little bit slower and do a quality backlink strategy? We'll talk about that later for sure. I want to kind of toss this question at you, Brian, of what's in store for 2024. And then we're going to talk about AI and the search results in AI and how we see that adjusting and changing. But with the changes you saw this year, using your magical SEO crystal ball, what do you feel are going to be the important things moving into this next year? Is it more of the same? Are there any things that you predict might be things people should look after?
Definitely. So I think the big one that is, I'll start with the bad news first, right? And then we'll get to the good news towards the end. So the bad news is that Google is still technically experimenting with a lot of the SGE, right? The search generative experience. This is their AI generating responses for random search queries, just trying to train their AI models to be more helpful. Right now, they have this huge block that shows up, and it pushes down ads, it pushes down organic results. And at the end of the day, that lowers the click-through rate for just about everything. So anytime an SGE result pops up, you're going to see lower click-through rates, you're going to see lower rankings, you're probably going to see lower value out of chasing those keywords down, until Google finally says, okay, we've gotten enough data on this, we can turn this experiment off, we can try with different things, or maybe they can add backlinks into the SGE response. So that's an opportunity for a site that maybe wasn't ranking in the top 5 to suddenly jump up to number 1, 2, or 3, because you'd be one of the 3 source links that are in the SGE response. So right now, in the early months of 2024, we're sort of predicting some rocky waters, so to speak. If you had consistent, steady traffic coming from certain keywords and they decide to put SGE on that, you might see a dip or a lot of fluctuation in how much traffic is coming through those keywords. And that might show in your Google Search Console as seeing lower clicks, but still having high impressions. Or you have an increased number of impressions, but not an increased number of clicks. So those are a couple of signs you can look out for. Some of the good news for this upcoming year, again, it's going to kind of start off sounding like bad news, but there's a silver lining to it. So in the past 4 months, or I guess, past 3 months of this recording, we have experienced 3 core updates and 2 systems updates. And that is faster and heavier hitting algorithm updates than we've ever seen before. A lot of SEOs in the industry were predicting that Google wouldn't do this at the end of the year because they got a lot of flack for it last year, sort of tanking everyone's rankings right before the holiday season, right before Cyber Monday and Black Friday. But they did it again. And so now a lot of SEOs are sort of predicting that this is not like an anomaly, but a new constant behavior. Google is going to start doing less announcements, so to speak, or press releases about when they update their algorithms, and they're just going to do it more constantly behind the scenes. So at first, that seems brutal, almost relentless. Like a lot of webmasters are not going to have an opportunity to really recover their ranks. But the silver lining here is that when we have so many core updates happening, we have so many systems updates, we get more information back. We get a faster response from Google. So that lets us know if it is our content that's not being helpful, we'll know much sooner. We won't have to wait 3 or 4 months out until the next core update happens, because they don't happen 3 or 4 times a year anymore. They happen almost monthly. And the other thing is that there's a lot of suspicions that if we have these, what we call sitewide classifiers, which is something that was announced in 2023, if that's affecting our website, we'll be able to recover those way faster than before. Because again, we used to think you'd have to wait for a core update, and then it's going to evaluate all of your content again, give you a single site-wide classifier score. And even if you change and you update those contents, you won't recover your rankings until the next core update happens, which previously could have been 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months, because we went 6 months between core updates this year. So the good news is that next year, we're probably not going to have to wait that long. So if you're being like really hands-on with your website, if you're really doubling down and focusing on your SEO, you'll see faster results simply because Google's updating the algorithms more frequently.
Okay, so this right here, I think, is really important. And for a lot of people who are newer on the SEO side of things, or you're just kind of starting to figure out what these terms mean, I want to double down on what Brian said. There were times several years ago where there might only be like a couple core updates in a year. And if someone, I'll give an example. There was a client who went in, and I remember this one from years ago. They went to Fiverr, they bought a ton of crappy spammy backlinks, right? They got a really great ranking pretty quickly. They're all high on the hog. So like, oh my gosh, I'm getting leads that are coming in. It happened way faster than most people. And then all of a sudden a core update happened and it squashed their ranking. They couldn't get that back for most of the year then. And what Brian is mentioning here is Google's taking bigger swings now. A core update's a bigger swing. You could almost look at it like they're taking these bigger swings that are making it so they're looking at some of the more fundamental ranking factors versus small refinements. And this is, to me, what this indicates is, we started to see the bigger swings happen really after AI came on in the conversation as a real force. And for me, I look at it and go, why would Google be making these bigger swings more often? It's because they not only see the opportunity for AI and other technologies to accelerate and improve the way that their search rankings work, but I think it's a competitive issue that they're looking at Bing, and Bing is tied in so deeply with OpenAI and ChatGPT. Bing is getting better pretty quick, and Google's having to look at stuff going, now we've got to make bigger changes faster to stay ahead of the search game, which kind of comes into that next question of do we see Google getting disrupted as the primary place that people go to find answers? And what's your thought there going into this new year? Is that a possibility? What are the other things people should even look for, as far as optimizing for?
Yeah, for sure. So with this response, I have two major influences that I have spoken with about this exact question. One of them is my brother, who actually works at Google. And so I asked him, I said, hey, internally, if you are allowed to speak on it, is Google freaking out about ChatGPT? And he just started laughing. And he says, no, we're not worried about it at all. In fact, ChatGPT technically earns Google money. And I said, how does that work? Because it's a separate, platform, a separate product. It's for Microsoft instead of Google. And he says, well, Google has been building physical infrastructures to do cloud computing for over a decade. And he works in the Google Cloud department. So he says, we've been selling Google Cloud platforms and BigQuery, to multi-million-dollar companies for a long time. And he was like, when ChatGPT came out, they didn't have the infrastructure. Even after Microsoft dumped millions, almost $1 billion, I think, into ChatGPT. He said the fact of the matter is they didn't have the warehouses, they didn't have the servers, and to generate AI responses is really resource intensive. So who do they subcontract out to do all that processing for those answers? Google. So he's like, every time someone uses ChatGPT, it's running on Google machines. So it may be through their program, but it still puts dollars in our pocket. And I was like, wow, no one has talked about that. No one's mentioning that. And then on top of that, Google's doubling down, like you were saying, in their own AI. And they have a lot more than just search. So they have, all of the like web tools that we use, like Gmail, and they've got Google Maps. They also have their own phone line. They purchased Android. So they're really invested in a more diversified AI experience across all the different products. So even if ChatGPT dampens a little bit of the search, that's not even Google's largest revenue generating program, right? It's display ads. It's YouTube. And so Google's not really all that concerned. Now, in terms of how it will affect user behavior, that was the next big question. And for that, I reached out to Brent Marino, who runs the largest AI newsletter. If you watched our live stream during Cyber Monday, we talked a lot about that. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, like, what do you think? Like on a personal level, from your experiences, all the people you've been talking to about AI, is that going to change user behavior? And he says, oh, absolutely. He's like, I don't use Google at all anymore. I go to ChatGPT for everything. And I was like, well, sure, but I think you're a bit of an edge case here because you're in the thick of it. Like you eat, breathe, and sleep AI. But for average individuals, do they even know about it? Are they using it regularly? Are businesses incorporating it into their business plans and stuff? And he says, yeah, they are, but adoption's slower. And so I think personally, from speaking with Brent, that it's a matter of adoption rate. So I think that the majority of the world population is not going to just jump from Googling something to using ChatGPT. A lot of people still have this sort of strange fear of AI, thinking that AI is going to take over the world and it's going to cause the apocalypse and all that. It's extreme for sure, but I also understand that a lot of people are afraid of the unknown, and AI is definitely a big gray area for them. So I don't think that ChatGPT is going to completely like change the SEO industry. I still think SEO is worth investing in. I still think it's worth doing, and I think it's still going to be producing results for years to come. I don't think we're anywhere near the point where AI is going to completely replace how people behave online.
Yeah. Dude, this topic here, I could talk on this topic alone for probably another 45 minutes. And I want to kind of take people back, probably, if I had to guess, probably 3 years and maybe 4 years ago. There's a Carrot Cast episode in there somewhere. And people were asking this question before ChatGPT came out of pretty much like, Trevor, what do you see being the future of Google search? It was before ChatGPT came out, and that was the thing. That was the entity people would be scared of or looking at. And the thing I want to encourage everyone to do is always look at what's going to reduce resistance from helping people find the solve to their problem, right?
Right.
And so what I like to do, Brian, is I like to go to, if you were just to dream and remove all capability, or remove like all limiting beliefs and remove anything that you feel isn't possible, and just say, what's the ideal solution? Let's talk about home sellers here, right? The ideal solution for someone who needs to sell their house is they probably literally ask somebody that they trust 100% in, hey, I've got this problem. They have a confidence that person is going to be able to give them an answer that solves it. And they're going to take that one recommendation and go get it solved. Or I guess if you were to even remove that, they would ask a question and magically put it on their wall or whatever, right? So,
right.
so then the next thing that I ask about is I go, well, what would have to happen to make that true? Well, the person would have to have full trust and full confidence that one single answer that they got was the right answer for them, right? Not an opinion or not a answer, but the right answer for them. And so then you ask the next question, well, what would have to be true to make that happen? And then you just keep on doing this. And I go, well, so let's look at Google search. With Google search right now, someone goes to Google and they make a search, and they have all these options, right? And so that's a terrible experience, honestly, for someone that's looking for an answer to their problem. If you're looking for the best sushi place, I know you're a big sushi guy. Let's pretend Roseburg had 6 sushi places in town, which we only have 2 or 3 now. But let's say that there were 6. If you wanted the best sushi place in town, and you knew someone who also liked sushi who was in town, and you trusted their taste, and you knew that your taste was like theirs, you'd probably hit that person up directly and say, hey, I'm in town for 2 days. I want the best sushi spot. I trust you. They're going to tell you the one, and you're going to go. Right? You're probably not going to look through Yelp and spend 35 minutes looking at all the Yelp stuff. You're like, I trust that person. They're just like me. I've ate sushi with them before. Bam, they're going to nail it. They're not going to serve in the wrong direction. So it's all about a trust issue, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about a trust issue. And so the thing is trust and confidence. When people hit a Google search result, they have to have all these options so they can logically go through a decision-making path to increase their confidence and trust in the one that they choose. So the flaw with ChatGPT right now, I think they're closing that gap, is I can go to ChatGPT and ask a question, but there's still a gap between trust and confidence that the one single answer they're going to give me is the right 100% right answer for me.
Right.
This gets even more complicated when you step away from the type of things like Brent's talking about, where Brent talks about all I'm using is ChatGPT now. I don't think that's true. So if he goes into a town and he's looking for a restaurant, he's not going to ChatGPT to say, give me the top American bistro restaurant in Detroit. He's still going to Google for that, or he's going to Yelp for that or something like that. So I think the whole model of currently how ChatGPT works breaks down when you start to go to a local search environment for big risk things that require high trust. And one last thought I want to toss over to you, Brian. In that podcast episode a few years ago, I was casting this vision. I said, guys, because page after page of options is not the ideal in a Google search, I think the results are going to get shrunk down. And what the vision I cast 3 years ago was, I said, what I believe is going to happen is it's going to give you one suggestion based on a bunch of factors, based on your social graph potentially, based on reviews of that thing, based on a bunch of different factors that they can detect that maybe we don't even realize they can detect. And if I'm in Roseburg and I type up best sushi place in Roseburg, I think it would give a different answer versus this other person over here based on some factors maybe. But the human being still wants confidence and they want options. And so I think it's going to give you one, and then below that, it's going to say, didn't hit it, show me 3 more. It's not going to be show me 1 more. It's not going to be show me 25 more, 5 more pages. It's going to show me 3 more. Then I'm going to go through that process now to make my decision. And I feel that's probably where Google search is going to go. They're already starting to try that in the generative search above. That's pretty much that vision I cast 3 years ago. They're doing that up there.
It's very close.
And what then I think is going to happen is slowly the pages below that, the page after page where you can scroll forever for search results. I feel, and I could have egg on my face in a couple of years in this, but I feel that the volume of pages is going to slowly shrink. Okay. It's going to make it so now you're not scrolling through 8,000 results if you kept going. I feel it's going to shrink. And then eventually it's going to be primarily that generative AI result with something then you can expand or whatever to say, well, this isn't quite it. Here's some other things that might be, and then it'll open up more opportunities for you. But there's always going to be optimization, right? When you think about phone books, people optimize for the phone book. That's why you saw back in the day in the 90s, you saw so many companies that were AA towing, right? They were optimizing for the phone book. As soon as Google search came out and that became less relevant, you stopped seeing company names AA towing. And we're going to see a similar shift that we're all going to have to adjust for in the next decade ahead. Let's dive into the next topic here, man. It's like, so I could talk the AI one for a while, but so we talked about kind of what to expect with Google for the next year. And let's kind of get tactical now with people. You had mentioned some things about what people can do if the rankings started to dip, what to do to make them recover, talking about helpful content, maybe even getting to eat. Let's dive into the helpful content topic. So the question is probably popping up for people. Hey, Brian said helpful content's really important. And how do we make that happen with AI? Let's kind of break that down. What is helpful content? What should people do? You just take it away, man, and dive into this topic with people.
For sure. So the first question is like, my rankings dropped, what happened, right? So we first need to figure out which Google algorithm update impacted your website the strongest. And so you can go into your Google Search Console or your Google Analytics, and you can find typically on the graph a date where you see a large drop off. And then when you find that date, jot it down, and then go to carrot.com/real estate news. And that's where we put all of the Google algorithm updates on our site. And we give you a quick little snippet of what that algorithm update impacted and how you can recover from that. Because it may not always be the helpful content update. But if it is, then the next thing you have to do is audit your content. And this sounds easy, but can quickly become more complicated than it sounds. So what we've done is we've utilized ChatGPT to review this massive PDF. I think it's just over 70 pages long. And it gives guidelines to human quality graders that check AI responses as well as Google search rankings. So they go through and they look at all the top 10 rankings for just a random query that Google assigns them, and they review each one and say, does this website have experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust? And they go through and they calculate this. But Google has to give these quality graders guides on how to do all this. So what we've done is taken that PDF and we've broken it down, and we've used ChatGPT to summarize that and to create different categories to let us know on a more quantifiable level which parts of our content is helpful and which ones are not. So let's go ahead and pull up this EEAT improvement prompt for ChatGPT. Can you see this?
This is cool, by the way, man. Guys, if you aren't listening to this, and if you're listening to the podcast version, once you get into a spot where you can pull up video, like maybe listen to the whole audio version, but pull up the video version, because what Brian's going to show you guys or some amazing ChatGPT prompts based on the research they did. This wasn't just, Brian sat in a corner, came up with some ideas. They pulled Google's whole criteria, threw it into AI, asked it some questions, and out of it came these things, which is going to be really cool.
So the prompt that we ended up going with goes just like this. Act as a Google search rater and create 7 parameters of justifying content based on these questions. And then we list off a bunch of different questions. And these are coming straight from the Quality Grader Guidelines PDF. And then the second prompt, it says, now rate this content out of 10 for each of the 7 metrics. And then you simply copy and paste whichever blog post article or landing page or city location page that you want into the prompt following that. And it's going to give you this response. So I'm going to pull up another one. And this is for a piece of content that is actually on the Carrot website. So this is for our SEO for Real Estate Beginners guide. And I wanted to make sure that this particular guide met all of the EAT criteria. And so the response that I have up here on my screen says, certainly, based on the questions provided, here are the 7 parameters for justifying content: originality and depth, comprehensiveness, headline integrity, trustworthiness and transparency, author expertise, accuracy, reliability, and critical decisions, or reliability for critical decisions. And so then I said, okay, rate our content and give me a score on 1 to 10 for each of these 7 different criteria. And so after putting that in, here's the response. So it says this piece of content for originality and depth has an 8 out of 10. And then it gives a justification for that. The next one, comprehensiveness, is a 9 out of 10, gives a justification for that. And so you can see here, it's not just general advice. This is extremely fine-tuned and it's very tactical. So the one for originality and depth, it gave us a score of 8 out of 10. And it says justification for this is that the content provides a mix of both general knowledge and specific insights about SEO in the realm of real estate. The example of Tyler Ford and statistics from the National Association of Realtors give it some original depth. However, much of the introductory information about SEO is fairly standard. So that tells me right out of the gate, okay, I probably submitted, since this particular piece of content is almost 10,000 words long, I only copy and pasted the first 2,000. So I'm doing this in big sections. And it tells me that the intro section is a little bit too generic. It's fairly standard. So I know that if I want to get that score from an 8 out of 10 up to a 10, I need to go through and I need to add more unique insights about the information that Carrot knows about SEO that other people in the industry simply don't know, which is great, super, super quantifiable. And then we go through this list and it gives us scores 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 again. And so I basically just go through and I copy and paste each of the different sections as I work through the entire blog post. And so now I've got my marching orders for which pieces of content need to be updated or which sections of the content need to be updated. And I'm really only looking for anything that is below a 7, because a 7 out of 10 is usually pretty good. I think at that point, that's when we start to see the diminishing ROI. And so I'm really looking for that 80-20 split. Give me a piece of, one of these 7 categories in this one piece of content that only ranks like a 3 or 4. And then I'll go through and fix that because that's going to have the highest impact, the highest return on my investment for updating this content. So if these things are still good, just copy and paste, repeat the process. And then if you want to drill down even further, we have another, let me pull that one back up. We have another piece that you can look at. So let's say, for example, it gives you something that has like a score of 4 out of 10, right? And so what you can do next is use this third prompt, which reads, you have rated low on the metrics of trustworthiness, expertise, and reliability for important decisions. Can you point out which parts of the article can be improved and what to improve in those parts so that it gets a better score at trustworthiness, expertise, and reliability for important decisions? And it'll go through and say, yes, here's what you can do. You can add certain citations. You can quote something from a local resource, like maybe local government regulations, for example. And it will give you very specific, granular, tactical tips to improve those scores. And then once you make those scores, you can just run the same prompts over and over again until you get it to the where you want it to be. And then lastly, we have a fourth prompt if you want to go even deeper. And it says, select some paragraphs from the article and suggest a modified version as per what you have suggested to improve originality and expertise. The writer's persona should be a person who has firsthand experience with the topic of the article. And keep in mind, all of these prompts that I'm putting into ChatGPT are in the same thread. So I'm not starting a new chat and starting over. This is all the same thread so that ChatGPT has the same context, same training, and the same reference points throughout the whole thing. So if you're putting this fourth prompt in, it will then essentially rewrite some of those paragraphs that it said scored poorly. And it'll give you some sample text, which you could then copy and paste and just put into your own article. So this brings me to my next talking point about using ChatGPT for your real estate website. It's fantastic for doing stuff like this, where you're giving it incredibly specific prompts and you're looking for an incredibly specific outcome, and you're able to produce enough context and relevance for ChatGPT to really get a full picture of what you're asking it. But what it is not good for is saying, write me a blog post about how to avoid foreclosure in Market City State, and then have it spit out a full blog post for you, because it's going to be too generic. It won't be helpful. It's not going to include things that would impact your EAT score in a beneficial way. It's just going to give you very bland, recycled information that it's pulling from everyone else's websites and then sort of combining it together. And it's not going to be helpful for you. But if you use it in this way, you can take the content that already exists. You can use automated content library blog posts, and then you can put these prompts through and go through all of the blog posts that you have from your care site and make them incredibly impactful for visitors to your website.
Dude, this is so cool, man, for so many reasons. A couple of questions pop up for me. So when Google's looking at the EAT score, do they look at it on a page by page basis? As an example, here's the content on this page. I'm going to put it in the ChatGPT and it's going to tell me how good I'm doing on my EAT score for this page. Or are they also including the overall picture of the site? So I'll give an example. Let's say you have a reviews page. It has a bunch of reviews, but you have some reviews on the pages too. Let's say you've got a really good about page that has a bunch of content that talks about your expertise, how long you've been in business and all that. Well, let's say the page you put in to that, to ChatGPT using this process, let's say it doesn't talk about your experience. Let's say it doesn't have reviews and it ranks low on those scores. Is Google going to still reward me with EAT because the other pages that it links to have that? Or is it really drilled down into the page by page more often?
So it's a little bit of both. EAT scores in general is site-wide. So it will take into account your about page, your contact page, your reviews or testimonials pages. But then for things like helpful content, the EAT scores applies to that. And then it's a cumulative average. So they say if we review 100 websites and 75 of them are not helpful and 25 of them are, then you're going to receive the unhelpful content site-wide classifier, which just says in general, it's going to be more difficult for your content to be indexed and definitely to rank based on the fact that you have a reputation of publishing bad content. So we want to reward websites that are consistently publishing high quality, helpful content more than the people that just have random one-off insightful articles. But the vast majority of it is not helpful. So I would say that focusing on your EAT scores first is probably going to be the higher return action on your SEO strategy. But shortly after that, you should go through and audit all of your content and make sure that if your blog post is not getting impressions, if it's not getting clicks, if it's not ranking for keywords or doesn't have backlinks, that you really go through and either delete it entirely or you use ChatGPT and some of these prompts we've listed here to really work through that content to make it helpful again.
Dude, this is so good, man. So like I said, guys, if you're listening to the audio version of it and you didn't see the video version of it, make a note when you get home or in the office next week, tomorrow, look this up because Brian's showing the prompts on here, which I love it. And one thing that I've got a note here for too is you mentioned at the start of the call, we've rolled out some amazing new features. Recently, we've got some more coming out on the SEO side of things. How can people use, as an example, the new AI rewrite tool, the beta tool we have out right now? How can they use that to help with this process potentially, or maybe not this process, but to help with their content and making it more helpful? And any other suggestions on some of our features that people can start to dig into and use more effectively today?
Definitely. So I think at the time of publishing this podcast, it's going to be SEO month. So definitely check out carrot.com/SEO so that you can get access to all of our SEO content that we're publishing, both new and old. But the thing that you mentioned about the AI content rewrite tool. So that you're only going to find in your carrot site if you drill into one of your blog posts. So you sign into your website, you go to content, you click on posts, and then you should see a little carrot robot icon. It's pretty colorful, it's pretty cute, and you click on that, and it's going to give you the opportunity to rewrite some of this content. So if you click it on just the blog, like the whole blog post, I think it's going to attempt to rewrite the whole thing, which might take some time. But if you highlight some text, you should have it pop up on the, what would you call it? It's like a little modal pop up. So you click on that. And then it would just try to rewrite that one paragraph, which is significantly faster to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through this, guys, and just show you really quick, quick demo on what Brian's talking about. And yeah, so I took that first paragraph, and one of the reasons that I like to do this is number one, when we roll out content for you, whether it's a default page on your website that comes with your website when you launch it, or it's one of our automated blogs in that content library, it is really important that you use the structure we have that's set up for good flow and that's set up for good conversion. And we have the short codes in there that help inject your market and your phone number and company and things like that. That gives you a structure that's proven. But what still needs to be done is we need to then customize the content, right? And in the past, it was kind of hard, or not hard, but it took time, where we would say to people, hey, just use the structure. You're not reinventing the flow. But what you need to do is go through and really type up in your own words and make it more unique to you. This eliminates the need for that, as long as you have the content tools add-on. This alone, guys, for the content tools add-on is going to more than pay for the under $30 a month for that add-on, just in the time savings. But I clicked it. The cool thing that I like about how the team put this together, as of the second that we're doing this video, I'm sure it's going to keep changing and getting better, is it shows me the original, and then it shows me the new one. And you can go through and read the new one. You can have it rewrite it again if you don't like it. But if you like it, I can just go ahead and click confirm rewrite. I'm going to do it on this one here. Click confirm rewrite. It's going to lock in that new content. And if you have one like this paragraph here, Brian, that has a short code on it, that was really important that we said, hey, we've got to maintain those short codes, because the short codes are what really starts to work in that city. And so it's rewriting this one. It's taking a little bit longer since it's a longer paragraph, but you're going to see in there, the original has a short code. The new one, based on the prompting behind the scenes we have, has the short code. And it still actually wrote that paragraph a little bit longer, which is interesting, but it's good content. So I'll click confirm rewrite on that bad boy. It's going to take you a couple minutes to rewrite the majority of that article and have it really high quality, which is really fun. Let's see.
Absolutely.
Cool. One other thing I'm going to show people as well is, as of the time that you're watching this, if you're really wanting to invest into SEO, in number one, get the SEO add-on, because we're continuing to build, and then we're continuing to make the features better. But one of the things in the SEO add-on is you're going to unlock this domain overview. And as the time you're watching this, we might have the backlinks reports opened up in there. I want to toss this over to you, Brian. So if you're the average person, they're not an SEO expert like you who's been doing it for years, if they were to click the domain overview, what are the key things they should look at? And how often should they maybe look at the domain overview to kind of get a good sense of how they're doing on SEO?
Yeah. So I would say first recommendation is only look at this about once a month, because keyword rankings and the number of organic traffic that hits your site is going to change every day. And so the biggest problem, one that I even still battle with, is that if you check rankings every day, if you check your organic traffic every day, you're going to give yourself heart palpitations, because things are going to go up and they're going to go down and go back up again and back down. And you really want to try to find more of a median number of keyword rankings, a median number of organic traffic coming through, and draw averages. Don't give yourself a heart attack if one day you've got 100 unique visitors and the next day you have 2. It's likely not that something has happened to your site. It's more likely that you just don't get as much traffic on a Wednesday, but on Fridays it's way high. So it could be things that are entirely outside of your control. But what I would do is check this at least once a month. Just kind of get tabs on whether or not your total keywords is growing. Because if you're publishing new content and you're writing about different topics, you should see the total number of keywords increase. Now, that's not necessarily to say that the individual rankings on those keywords are going up, They may not even be ranking in like the first 3 pages. But the first part of this marathon is that they start ranking the top 100, right? That's why we show top 3 all the way down to 51 through 100, because you got to hit the ladder before you can climb the ladder. So what you'd like to see ideally is that the total number of keywords goes up over time. The second most important thing is to look at total number of backlinks and the total number of referring domains. The reason why I bring this up is because if you're personally building backlinks by reaching out, by using the Haro backlinking technique that we recommend, you want to make sure to keep tabs on whether or not those backlinks have hit your site. But if you see a sudden spike in the number of referring domains specifically, you might be a victim of a negative SEO attack, which means one of your competitors went to Fiverr, they bought 500 backlinks, and they pointed them to your website. So this is something that's becoming more and more popular. It's easy to contact an SEO specialist and have them disavow those backlinks, but it's one of those signs that you can see from your domain overview dashboard pretty easily. So if you see suddenly like a huge spike, and this number is going to change for each person. Like let's say on average, you get 2 new referring domains per month. That's good to know. But if you suddenly see 100 new referring domains in a month, that's kind of a red flag that you want to look into. And then also the number of backlinks you have is helpful too. So in Google's eyes, it's better to get one backlink from many different websites than it is to get lots of backlinks from 1 or 2 websites. And so that's another thing that you can sort of check with backlinks versus referring domains. And then lastly, you can look at the actual keyword rankings. So if you have, like, it's not on the domain overview, but it's over there in the rankings tab. And you can also now purchase additional keyword ranking tracking credits to sort of keep tabs on more keyword rankings that are specific to your website, your location. And this is great to know that, you want to sort of find keywords that ideally have a high volume, but are also closer to your brand or related to your brand. So sometimes people are searching for your brand specifically. Sometimes they're just searching for sell my house fast Tacoma. So you want to make sure you have a good blend of those. Some that are very specific and highly motivated, but have a smaller volume of search, and a mix of others that are more generic, but have a higher volume. And so that gives you the most consistent amount of leads. You don't want to try to double down too much on anything too specific or too generic.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I want to show people, piggyback on what you mentioned about the keyword rankings tab. One thing that especially a newer site may have, or someone migrating an existing site over to Carrot that they may have a question like, well, I don't even know what I'm currently ranking for, so I don't know what keywords to put in there. Well, that we give you some suggestions in the actual rankings tab based on the site type you're using. Hey, you might want to track these types of keywords, but we only give you a few suggestions. The first thing I would always do is you come to that keyword explorer, and once again, it might be in a different spot based on when you're watching this video, but you put in your own URL and ask, where am I currently ranking? So I'm just going to put in this site. I launched this site so many years ago, Brian, probably 8-9 years ago. I haven't touched it since then. It still gets me lead every week for tenants. Haven't touched it in 8 years. And so I put it in there. It's just for one of my apartment buildings in a town called Klamath Falls. So I'm not ranking amazingly well for some of these phrases that pop up, but I am ranking in some spots. And if I were to kind of track that whole thing, I'm sure some of the rankings have decreased because I haven't touched it in so long. But at least I can tell where I'm starting to rank. And now I can click this and track that keyword. So that's the first thing I would do, y'all, is put in your URL and then grab the keywords out of here and click track keyword that you're already ranking for that you want to track. Start with your company brand name. I would suggest everyone should track your company name first, because that's first priority. You've got to start every marketing channel, including SEO, with dominating what I call the decision phase. And that's anything around your brand reviews, things like that. So track, the top 2 or 3 there. And then you go into your primary couple of keywords for your homepage. And if it's sellers, it might be sell my house fast, insert location, or we buy houses or something like that. And then it's going to be a smattering of a bunch. Another thing you could do once you get more advanced then is you put in your top 1 or 2 competitors' keywords, or not keywords, URLs. So if there's a phrase you want to rank for, sell my house fast Miami or whatever, do that search and then pop in your top 2 or 3 competitors and see what else they're what else they're ranking for, or see what percentage of their overall traffic, organic traffic, is coming from a certain keyword. Because that might give you an indicator that, oh, that keyword is something I should pay attention to. So use these tools, guys. It's there's some pretty cool things in there. Well, dude, we're nearing the end, and you and I could probably talk SEO for a long time. We have some amazing tools coming out, y'all. We're doubling down on SEO. So if you want to ask us, hey guys, how much of a part of the picture moving forward do you still feel that search engine optimization is going to be? I still feel that inbound marketing is going to only grow. What's going to change is the location people go to find those answers. Brian and I both still believe that Google is going to be the primary inbound online spot for quite some time. There are going to be the early adopters who are going to be solving certain problems with a tool like a ChatGPT or whatever. But for the people looking for a solution, especially a local type of solution, I think it's going to be a bit before anything overtakes Google. But I don't want to say never, that's never going to happen. So we always have to look out for what's next. Always got to look out for what's next. And we're looking out for that as well, y'all. And I still feel as bullish as ever about helping you guys get in front of the best motivated leads through a Google search and being aware of where else we can pivot to get you guys there first, which would be fun. Any parting words, dude? Any thoughts that people need to think about, resource to send them to, or even just in parting on the SEO topic?
I would say, much like what you were saying, I still have full confidence in SEO. And if there was like one takeaway that I want people to have, it's that evergreen content in terms of like your content marketing is still the best SEO strategy. You'll see a ton of SEO strategies on our website and in other places online where they'll recommend things like bullish backlink building strategies or trying to game Google map packs. But at the end of the day, those things change often. But the one constant that has stayed the same for over 20 years is really high quality content marketing. So content is king. It has been for a long time. It's going to stay that way for a long time, even with ChatGPT. So just stay the course, run the marathon, and you'll find success at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Mm-hmm. And guys, build that expertise, build the authority, build the trust. The more you can make sure you're getting really good reviews on your Google My Business, get those reviews on your site. I don't know if you guys noticed who were watching the video of it. When Brian did that analysis on a piece of content, one of the recommendations specifically talked about reviews and said there are reviews on this page. So Google recognizes what is a review and what is not. So work on getting reviews on there. Work on still building backlinks, but really good quality backlinks that are related to your industry, to the niche, to the things that people are looking for, that aren't just volume of backlinks from whatever else. And get really, really smart with it. Use our tools that we're developing, use the training that we're putting out there, and continue to hit us up, y'all, where you have challenges or questions, or you want to celebrate an amazing ranking and a bunch of leads. I was emailing back and forth with a customer today who's just starting to get some traction on the SEO side. He's not getting a big volume of deals yet, but he's closed 2, and he's got 3 more that are in the process of closing. So 5 in the past 7 months. If he keeps down that path, year 2 is where it takes off. That's where you really capture that momentum and build from there. And you'll be thankful looking back in a year or 2 saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I made the choice to move towards inbound, move towards evergreen with Carrot. Brian, thank you, dude. Big time. Appreciate it. Go to carrot.com/SEO. Like Brian had mentioned, we have a bunch of resources over there. And keep plugging into the updates we're putting out there and go use those features. Grab that SEO add-on that's inside of our software. Under $30 a month, you unlock so many features that are going to help you make SEO a little bit simpler. Brian, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all.